everyone, welcome to SheaRants by Horror and Supreme. Today I am joined by Friday the 13th actor of the original Jason Voorhees, Ari Lehman. So everyone please welcome to the channel, Ari Lehman.
Hey everybody, it's me, Ari Lehman, rhymes with demon, the boy in the lake from Friday the 13th. Cheers, mates. How's it going over there?
It's pretty well over here. Where you are in Chicago, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago. It's a beautiful day, which is awesome. Sometimes we have really windy weather, but it's gorgeous today. Beautiful sunny day. You know, I was in UK not too long ago. I got to do I think it was the London Comic Con, which was a great deal of fun. They had, in fact, a whole bunch of really cool actors were there, and some from horror, some from all kinds of Britcoms and stuff like that. But it's always wonderful to be there in London. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've of course gone to London Comic Con a few times. I didn't go to the last one just because I'm pretty sure that was in wasn't it December?
And then we also did the event called For the Love of Horror in Manchester, England, which I really recommend to horror fans in the UK or anywhere nearby, because that's an outstanding event. They hold it in a big arena, Shay, and it's like, so they do all the panels on a huge stage, and then after the event they have concerts. So we had Corey Taylor there the year that I was there from Slipknot, and of course first Jason performed. We were performing alongside the great Tim Capello, who's the sexy sax man from the Lost Boys, and there were 3,000 people there.
That's pretty cool. Definitely need to go to that next time and so on. I'm pretty sure it is on this year. I was looking into that, so
yeah, please do. In fact, I liked it so much in Manchester. I got a tattoo here. Can you see? This is the wait, hold on. Here we go. There we go. It's the Manchester Bee, the Bee of Manchester. There it is. Yeah, I really did have a fantastic time. I really recommend that event. Of course, London Comic Con is a Comic Con, and For the Love of Horror is a horror con. So, and especially, in certain countries where, you don't have as much of a outpouring of support for horror, it's good to go to those horror cons so you can feel, you're at home with all your monster friends.
Yeah, I mean, the support for horror definitely isn't really big in this country. Like, we have, of course, For the Love of Horror, but I don't really know many horror conventions here. Of course, since I've only lived in the UK, even though I am from here for the past year and a half, I instantly looked up every convention which was possible, around me, and that was England. But there weren't really many horror things on there. It was just mainly
that. They generally tend to be more across the board, and they'll have people like from Blackadder and TV shows like that, which I love. But it's a different environment. A lot of the actors who don't do horror are a bit, I don't know, maybe a bit tentative about us horror actors. But that said, when I was at London Comic Con, I got to meet the great Derek Jacobi, the fine Shakespearean actor, which was quite an experience. But wow, when we were at Manchester, oh my gosh, it was just so many great people were there, from all the different movies, including Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and Terrifier. In fact, have you seen Terrifier, Shay?
Yeah, I have. It's one of my favorite like indie horrors that I've seen recently.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with you on that assessment. Outstanding film, and Terrifier 2. I don't know if you've gotten to see that.
Yeah, I'm patiently awaiting the third one, which is going to be a Christmas film. So it's going to be great fun for all the family.
Oh my God, we just saw a still from that, and it's already, yeah, with Santa Claus and everything. Yeah, they are wonderful. The moment that I arrived at Manchester, oddly, after flying, and one is a little disoriented, and I walked right in, and who's right there at the cafeteria? I mean, not cafeteria, but the restaurant, because it was a nice hotel, the restaurant, and everyone's getting a little breakfast, So and there's David Howard Thornton and Damien Leone, and they both kind of stand up, and I was like, who's this? I couldn't even. Then I realized, oh my gosh, it's these guys. And it was the weekend that Terrifier 2 was released. And wow, the response was just, I mean, it was the weekend it was released in UK, so I already seen it in the United States. So there you go. And a fantastic success. Well, speaking of clowns, I'm also in a clown film, which is a bit more of a comedy. It's called Clown Motel. Have you seen this one?
I've not seen Clown Motel yet, but while I was doing a bit of research for this video, I did see that you were in that, so I am probably gonna watch it like maybe later today, just because.
Thank you. Well, I'm in. Okay, they just asked me to be in Clown Motel 3, so I was in the second one, but not as much because that was shot during the whole COVID thing, and we couldn't do that much shooting. But in the first one, and in all of them, I play this character, Sycan the Clown, who has a voice that's kind of in between Stewie from Family Guy and Cesar Romero's Batman. So he's quite a funny character. But I'm a clown who reluctantly murders people.
Well, I mean, that just sounds like a blast to watch. Of course, I mean, I've watched a load of clown movies now. I've even got the Terrifier clown literally behind me here, but
oh, you do?
Sounds to watch.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, Clown Motel is not as intense as Terrifier, but it is fun, and there's a lot of cool stuff in it. And it was actually shot, Shay, at the actual Clown Motel in the middle of the desert in Nevada. So, and since then, they've remodeled that space. So when we shot the first one, it really had that old, very creepy vibe of all these old, those clown paintings and those little clown figurines just all over the place. And yeah, it was quite scary. Although I don't find clowns to be scary on that level, but there is a cemetery there that is the actual cemetery where many miners were buried after there was a mine fire. So they took that story and they weave it into the storyline of Clown Motel. So I did see some of the synopsis and ideas for Clown Motel 3, and I think it's going to be a winner. It's like they step it up and they take it to the next level. Apparently inspired by Terrifier.
So, do you think with the third one, since they have, of course, remodeled the actual Clown Motel, you're going to be filming like a set, or are you going to go back to that?
Oh no, we're going back. Yeah, we're going back to the Clown Motel. They remodeled it, so it does look different. Two brothers bought the place and they painted it up, but now they painted it in a very garish way and put this giant clown statue in front. So I don't know. I think that it still has enormous potential. And yeah, they told me be ready to go back to the desert to shoot in August. Oh my God. It's going to be hundreds of degrees. But, you know, that's what we do. I mean, gosh, everyone wonders when I played little Jason, they all asked me, oh my gosh, was the water cold? Did you suffer a great deal? And I mean, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but I experienced no discomfort. We were having so much fun on the set of Friday the 13th. And we did have a lot of fun on the set of Clown Motel too. I mean, you know, it's always hard work during the day when you're shooting, but when you're done, everybody's together having a good time together.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about Friday the 13th for a minute, how was the makeup process for playing little kid Jason? Was it like long or was it sort of quick? But like, was it one piece thing?
No. It was all practical effects by the great Tom Savini. Okay, so little Jason has a glass eye and false teeth. Yeah, the teeth are false, and this is a glass eye. So it was basically half. This is all prosthetic, and this is my real face. Okay, so it took about 3.5 hours to 4 hours every time to apply it. But again, I was working with Tom Savini and his assistant Tasso Stavrakis, and the two of them were so much fun. They were hilarious, and they made it a lot of fun. But you know, the whole process required they have to cast your head in clay, you know. So they actually put alginate over your head, and I had to breathe through straws. So then they have a cast of your head. So now they have to build the mask onto that so it fits to your face. And then, of course, that is, again, cast. Then we have to fit it. And then the work on the eye and the teeth. And then, of course, that took months. I grew up in a part of America called New England, where in Connecticut, interestingly, that's where Friday the 13th, the company that created Friday the 13th was in Connecticut, not in Hollywood. So we shot it in another part of New England called New Jersey. I'm sure you've all heard of New Jersey. And yeah, so the entire thing was well, first of all, one has to appreciate it was low budget. This was not a kind of film where there was a lot of money spent on special effects. And I can elaborate on the reason for that later. But what I got to see was Tom Savini and the director, Sean Cunningham. And this is an inspiration and should be an inspiration to independent filmmakers today, because they had a limited budget and limited time, very limited time to create Friday the 13th. And they managed to work together and cooperate and create a kind of synergistic energy and teamwork that somehow resulted in this wonderful classic horror film. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the reason why there was so much, or the reason why it was so low budget, let's put it that way, is because the initial project that Sean Cunningham wanted to submit to Paramount Pictures was not a horror film. Sean Cunningham wanted to submit a film that was a comedy about kids who play soccer. And yeah, it was a movie called Manny's Orphans. And it had the same writer, the same soundtrack composer, many of the same actors, and of course the same director. But Paramount Pictures, even though this film was completed, and it was quite good, and it included members of the New York Cosmos football soccer team, as you call football in UK. But that didn't matter. They passed. They said, sadly at that time, no one in America played soccer because it was 1978. And so they said, we'll give you another chance. Please come up with something else. This often happens. They said, you have this much time left, which was, 2 months or something, and this much budget left. So director Sean Cunningham had to come up with a new idea. That new idea was Friday the 13th. He called me up, having known me from the other film, and he knew that I was the right height, the right size to play little Jason. Basically, all he asked me was, can you swim? And I said, yeah, I can swim. So he said, you got the part. Come on down. And that's how it all started. Another insight that a lot of people don't know, that in fact Sean told me himself just a few months ago, we were in Germany working together, was that after they completed the first version of Friday the 13th, Paramount passed on the film again. And it wasn't until they added the final sequence, they asked me to come back to the set in October of 1979. We had wrapped the film in August. So, when they saw the ending sequence where little Jason comes out of the water and grabs poor Alice and brings her in the water, then they bought the film. And in fact, that inspired them to release the film and distribute it in 800 theaters across America on the same day. So that probably has a lot to do with how successful Friday the 13th eventually became.
Well, I mean, since you, of course, were already known by the director, and he, of course, called you back to be Kid Jason, were you able to, brag to any of your friends, I'm going to be in this creepy horror film?
Oh, well, you see, Shay, back then, horror was kind of taboo. It wasn't really something like that. I had bragged to my friends that I got an 80-line role in that other movie about soccer, Yeah. But then when Paramount didn't passed on the film, of course, we were all a bit crestfallen. In fact, I kind of kept it to myself about Friday the 13th because I didn't want to once again tell everybody I was in a movie and then it didn't come out. So I kept it to myself for a little while. Of course, my close friends knew. But then one day at high school, this was in high school now, so this was much later. It was in 1983 when, they had the first hockey mask. So that's when Jason really started catching on. And I remember a kid came up to me behind me and did the and I turned around and I said, what are you doing? He said, didn't you play little Jason? And I was like, yeah. So, times have changed. Now we've got Wednesday and American Horror Story and Stranger Things, and horror is very, very accepted in the world of today. I'm happy to say.
Well, I mean, since of course it seems like you're very into Friday the 13th, you base your music off of it as well. Will you ever return to Friday the 13th at some point? Of course, they're making a new show. If you even can, have you gotten any calls about that?
Well, thank you. That's very thoughtful. I think, as any actor would, anytime we're called and summoned to a role that feels good, then we're going to take it. um, of course, I could never play Jason again, but perhaps if they had a character that was in my wheelhouse, that kind of, in other words, if I fit the part, then I would do that. My main concern, Jay, is that as we go forward, the legacy of Jason Voorhees and the fans' interpretation and their love and dedication is not taken for granted. I wouldn't want to just be put in the movie, just because. I certainly wouldn't want people to come out of the spell of a good horror movie and say, "Oh, there's Ari. He's got a rock band." If there's a character where they say, "Wow, here's a character that fits Ari," so I would, of course, jump in. Now, they're talking about a TV series on Peacock.
Yeah.
And so I spoke with Sean about that. And Sean Cunningham, the director of the first Friday the 13th, is also planning a feature film that will be hopefully announced within the next year or so. But of course, Friday the 13th fans have been so patient waiting for a new film. I'm always hoping for the best.
Well, I mean, if you weren't, say, actually playing a character in the show or film or something like that, would you perhaps think of maybe making a song for the soundtrack of it, maybe?
Oh, I'd love to do that. Of course, yes, by all means. I mean, yes, now that you mention it, of course, First Jason, my metal project, we have so many songs like Jason is Watching, Jason Never Dies, Machete is My Friend, Voorhees is the Name, Kill for Mother. I mean, they could grab any of those songs and use them for the entire soundtrack, and we would be absolutely very, very pleased with that. But also, now that you mention it, we are going to be writing a song for Clown Motel 3. So we're working on that. So we'll see what that's going to be all about. But it's going to be a burner for sure from First Jason.
Well, just talking about First Jason for a minute. Before we did this episode, I was actually listening to a few of you guys' songs. I've added a few of them to my metal playlist. But how is going from an actor to a musician been? Has it been an easy or?
Well, yes. No. Initially, I was on the fence. Did I want to be an actor? Did I want to be a musician? And even early on, I was studying jazz piano. I was very into that. So when the opportunities came up for me to act in a movie, I took it. However, I found that acting in movies wasn't exactly as I'm sorry, as it certainly wasn't as exciting for me. The cerebral experience of playing music and everybody's having a good time together. You're on stage. You have such immediate, visceral interaction with the other musicians or with the audience. And in theater acting, there is some of that, although that requires a great deal of line memorization. But in movie acting, it's not like that, because it's really dedicated to making sure that the technology works properly, that we get the right shot with the right sound and the right lighting. And so the actor it's kind of taken for granted that the actor's line is going to be done properly, that they're going to be dressed properly, their costume and makeup is going to be proper. They're just going to come in and say one line, ba 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 ba, and then it's okay, back to your trailer, and they move everything around, and then they come back and you say action, ba 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 ba, and then so I found personally that wasn't as compelling for me. There are individuals who are more well suited to that kind of environment. So I became a musician. I really dove into music. I went to school at New York University and studied jazz and was absorbing the New York jazz scene as well as the punk and rock scene, progressive rock and everything that was going on at that time. But when I left college, I went into the then growing world music scene. So I played in African bands. I even went to Ivory Coast, West Africa to perform, working for Tough Gong Records, who was Bob Marley's label. I also worked for Interscope Records, Jimmy Iovine, and I was all absorbed in that world music scene. And it was after that kind of died down a bit that I received an email that asked me, "Did you sign this photo?" And my mind was in world music and reggae and everything. And here somebody was asking me, and it was a photo of little Jason. So I said, "Gosh, no, I've never autographed a photo before." And he said, "Well, I just bought this for $50 on eBay." So, long story short, that vendor gave money back, et cetera, et cetera. But I realized, wow, there's a big opportunity here to meet fans and so I started. I don't know if you know Fangoria magazine. The editor Tony Timpone asked me to go to a huge event, which was a Fangoria convention, and it was at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, and it was absolutely mobbed, and it was incredible. And that's where I got to meet Betsy Palmer for the first time, and Kane Hodder for the first time, and I got to see Tom Savini again. And it dawned on me that here was an opportunity to reach people with my music as well. But also, I saw that horror fans love metal and they love punk. So I took time to kind of rearrange what I do, and I started writing those songs, and I got help from different musicians on the scene, and I started First Jason. And I'm very, very grateful that the metal community and the punk community gave me so much, kind of embraced me and allowed me to grow, so that within time we really have a sound that I'm very confident in. And like for instance, we're going to be going to the 420 Expo in Niagara Falls, and the last time we were there, it was Halloween weekend, and we had completely packed the theater for Frightmare in the Falls, which was in Niagara Falls, Canada. So also two things that happened which were very advantageous. Or more than that, we worked with several bands that we've collaborated with, including the great Ice Nine Kills. Of course, Ice Nine Kills asked me to sing on the acoustic version of Thank God It's Friday. And then their lead singer sang on the first Jason song called The Scapegoat. So if any of your viewers would like to check that out, it's on YouTube. It's First Jason, The Scapegoat. And you'll see the great Spencer Charnas is in our video and singing on that song too. Then, I don't know how many UK fans know about this band, but they should. It's a band called Twisted, TWIZ. Oh, you love? Okay, great. They're having a. That's great to hear. That's very encouraging because do you know they're having their big convention this weekend? Like right now, it's called Astronomicon, and I think it's Astronomicon 7, and Kane Hodder is there this weekend, and it's in Pennsylvania, and we were just there at one of their more recent ones, so we'll be at one coming up. So we weren't at this one, but again, that's another event that I really urge people to attend, Astronomicon. So Twisted, they were so nice as to, so I came up with a hip hop track called Killin' It and asked Twisted, will you work with me on this? But it got even better, okay? Because Alex Vincent, who played Andy in Child's Play, he did the drums and the music for it. He produced the backing track. Then I do a verse. Okay, we got sexy sax man Tim Capello to play on it, so he's playing on it. Then we needed another verse, well, 2 more verses, so we got from Children of the Corn, I'm not kidding, the guy who played Malachi, Courtney Gaines, he does a verse on this song. Then Twisted comes in and does a double verse and, shows us how it's done, so to speak. So I'm really happy with that track. It's called Killin' It. And in fact, there's a new CD compilation of Killin' It. Wait, I'll grab one over here. I'm like, yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is the new CD compilation, Killin' It. Yep, with Twisted and everybody on there. And we're really, really happy with that. And, if anybody wants to get one, they could just message me and we will ship them to UK. Look at that amazing artwork. I just really happy with this. That's got 12 songs. So, yeah, with the help of those other acts, we've definitely reached listeners who never would have heard of us before.
Well, I mean, since you mentioned, of course, Ice Nine Kills, Twisted, and all of those guys, what are your thoughts on them? Like, how do you feel about metal being so intertwined into horror nowadays?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, you go back in time, horror and music and horror and rock and roll, you've got Zombie Jamboree from Harry Belafonte, you've got Screaming Jay Hawkins, of course, the great Alice Cooper, Ozzy Osbourne. It's just been a part of it all along. Even reggae musicians have scary songs like Bob Marley and his, duppy songs. And, it's always been a thing. Now, you had Misfits, of course, Ghost, and all these, of course, we got to mention Rob Zombie, who is truly maybe, he just foresaw the whole trends. And I love his music and his movies, and Marilyn Manson as well. But then what happened? Yeah, Twisted and that whole scene, coming from ICP and Twisted, and there's a horrorcore scene, which is absolutely so much fun. I get to work with Lethal Records, and they do a lot of that stuff up in Worcester, Massachusetts. So that's a thriving scene that I love. But also from Massachusetts is Ice Nine Kills. And what is it that they did? We really have to see. They truly turned a page because they have an almost literary approach. The album they did before American Nightmare was about books. About, they do albums about books. So they're very motivated by literature, by the scripts. And so you have to see, I mean, I got to perform with them. We got to open for them at Silver Scream Con. We're going to be back at Silver Scream Con this year. or I'm going to be there with the band. We'll see what format it is. And their show is so meticulously choreographed. It's amazing to watch. And they're not just throwing, it's not just crazy tech. It's like you really have to make a comparison with theater. It's like theatrical metal. That's what I think it is. It's like, and even Spencer had he called it oft Broadway, like OFFED, oft Broadway, you know, because he always comes up with cool phrases. But I was just so impressed watching them. You know, first Jason, we're very much kind of, you know, Motorheady, Misfitsy, coming from that, you know, with a little funky bluesy thing from me, but it's a rock and roll show, you know, and it's a tight set. I love the songs. Everybody gets into it. And you know, we're doing new stuff. We're writing new music now, which is compelling. And I think that a lot of our new music is compelling. And I'm continuing with that vision. But when I see what Ice Nine Kills has done, especially with their videos, which are just so stellar, you know, I think we've reached a new height in terms of what you mentioned, the bringing together, you know, metal and horror. And I'm just excited to see where's it going to go from here.
Well, I mean, hopefully it goes in a great direction. We'll get more like story-oriented music videos, which all come together to like a big climax, like the Silver Scream and Ice Nine Kills have been doing.
Oh yeah, with that whole court case thing, it's just and that showers the scene video. Oh my, just forget it. You know, and I hasten to add that Spencer asking me to do the song is indicative of his nature, which is very intuitive and very kind and very he just reaches so many people. It's mind blower how well he communicates with everyone. And I'm just excited for that. So, you know, I'm back in there. I'm writing new songs. I got some new ideas. So, you know, we're constantly onto that. Now that we release the compilation CD, which is what Killin' It is, we want to get back to writing new songs. And I think that it's very exciting. I don't want to say anything about these new songs yet, but there'll be a new album of all original First Jason material coming up soon.
Right. Well, I think we can end it there. So, well, thank you for coming on the channel.
No, thank you, Shay. Really, really, thank you so much. And I want to say cheers to everybody out there. And, you know, you should, everyone in UK, please, that is some of the most inspiring horror movies come from the United Kingdom. Hammer horror, okay? The great Oliver Reed, one of my favorite actors of all time. So, you know, it's a big thing. We're all doing this together. And thank you so much. And check us out, First Jason 13 on Instagram. And remember, Jason never dies.
Right, well, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, as Ari said, Jason never dies.